All right, guys, we are live for episode 22 of the Retailer Roundtable. We have returning guest with us, Jonathan Bates from Alter Egos Comics and Games. Or is it just Alter Egos Comics now?
It's Alter Egos Comics and Games. That's our legally official name, but we go by Alter Egos.
Okay. JJ, Jesse James. What do we got this week, guys? I know there's the very large one that we'll talk about kind of towards the end. But
I think we get to talk about my favorite company not doing so many awesome things this week.
Oh, okay. All right.
I still love them.
So do I. Because we're going to be on a nightly. So what is one of the not so awesome things?
So we did have we did a post earlier before, so we'd have one fan or somebody that visits the page ask us a question about just our thoughts on the future of DC comic publishing with everything going on right now. I know we touched on this a little bit last week, but maybe a little quick go around on that.
For us, like the DC retailer forum?
Just overall, DC cutting a lot of comics going to digital, and then maybe the future publishing with DC in general.
I don't see them going digital, 100%. I see that they may take some titles digital. They may take, things like Metal Men and Mr. Terrific and things like that. Some of those fringe titles may go digital, but I don't think you'll ever see the Batman, the Superman, the Justice League, things like that. The core titles will ever go total digital. You may have miniseries or something like that, but I don't think they'll ever.
I disagree with that. I think that they are going to go 100% digital, and don't be surprised by the 2021 when no comics are being printed by DC. I think you'll see OGNs, and I think you'll see collections of digital stuff. But I think judging by the steps they've been making, they've been continuing to distance themselves from local comic shops, and they've been focusing on collections and reprint material. And I'm not going to be surprised by 2021 if we are no longer printing monthly floppies. I really feel that that's the decision. This week I'm sure it'll be reported on Bleeding Cool probably 5 minutes ago. But they shut down their Facebook DC retailer forum, and that had been a source of pretty annoying disinformation since the pandemic had started. And it's only been more so. And the Batman Day announcement where they laid out there's going to be digital comics, and there's going to be specials at Amazon and Walmart and Target, and there was absolutely no mention of local comic shops as anything. And it's like, yeah, we can do our own Batman Day sort of thing, but it's kind of like us being at the end of the parade waving our own flag, and we are not included in their plans for what they're doing. And I think that's going to be, which leads me to my first question to you guys as Art Germ Collectibles. And I don't expect you to speak for Art Germ or Art Germ Collectibles, but more to theorize on the concept. When they do no longer print DC comics, how will Art Germ, respond to that? When you have a DC digital book that Art Germ is doing the cover for, will you sell prints? How do you foresee or do that where you decide, hey, while he's a digital artist, we don't necessarily, think digital comics are the way to go. Will your fans, who are buying an Art Germ cover be satisfied with Art Germ prints?
I think some of them will, because the print business is very lucrative, I guess, for a lot of artists. Do what?
Oh, they're ballers.
Yeah, they're ballers when they sell their prints. I don't know. I don't foresee us doing a whole lot with DC as a retailer doing a whole lot. Now, Art Germ, if the art's still going to be put in front of the fans' eyes, that is Art Germ's only concern. Whether it's in paper form, digital form, or written on a rock, it doesn't matter. As long as somehow, some way, that art gets in front of somebody's eyes, somebody new's eyes for them to see. And as long as DC is able to do that for Art Germ, I believe, and I'm not speaking for him, but knowing him, I believe he will continue to just produce art.
Yeah, but I don't think you're going to be able to charge as much for a digital Art Germ exclusive as you can for a print Art Germ exclusive comic.
No,
I mean,
we wouldn't be able to. We wouldn't be in the exclusive game at all, as far as that goes. For DC, for anybody that does digital comics, the exclusive aspect. Now, solicited covers and things like that. That's where Art Germ would, do his Art Germ thing. As far as Art Germ collectibles, we would go the indie route, the Marvel, whoever steps up to take DC's place as the number 2 in printed material.
JJ, you want to go first, or do you want me to go?
Have at it, brother. I'll finish up.
Okay. So, I have been very pro-digital for about 5 years now. And the reason why I've been very pro-digital comics is because I know the players personally. I talk to them on a constant basis. And the problem that they're having with Marvel and DC is Marvel and DC will not come down on the digital price. So I think it comes down to, can the players on one side get DC to come down from $3.99, $4.99 down to their traditional 99 cents, $1.25 to $1.99. They still have to work that out before we even say digital is going to go to DC. Cost effective, it eliminates DC's cost tremendously. Shipping, warehouses, all this fun, jazzy stuff. So I think right now, when someone was talking about a couple of weeks ago about a pro-digital code that gives you the exclusive from the digital, that's, I think, where they're thinking of. So you guys were talking about exclusives, which was funny because that's the conversation now happening on the digital side, is how do you actually provide a code where someone would be willing to pay $10 or $4.99. So that's kind of what's going on in the inside over there. I think the DC page, I have been a proponent. I'm going to go opposite on all this stuff here. That should have came down a year ago. And the reason why it should have came down a year ago is I think and we were talking about this off screen, we have tons of stores out there, that small echelon, 300 to 500 stores that were never in that group. And I think those are the stores that need the more information in. And Jonathan said it right on the head. Not all the information ever fruition. And so I think when DC can turn off that thing, control the mob, and control what they want to say, whether it's going to happen or not, mask, digital, and other things that are going on, I think that was bound to happen. If you go on there, what is it? I'd have to take a poll with some of the people. 8 out of 10 posts were negatives against retailers, either Satan or something like that. So it was really a hard place to get proper information. Now, I'm challenging all publishers to open up your quote-unquote private secret groups to retailers and let those retailers be part of it. I think that would be a great thing for a small store in Muncie, Indiana, to be part of a secret group that they had no idea existed in DC until yesterday. And then the final thing I had, listen, our terms thing do great. I mean, if it comes down to paying his art and toilet paper, people are going to buy it. They'll buy it by the rolls, they'll buy it by the 12 packs. So I think it's a pivoting moment. And I think the best artists out there right now, the hot artists, they always are pivoting to do other covers for other companies. We just talked about Derek Chu and something that happened with us this morning that I wasn't aware of till this morning. Cory wasn't aware of. So things happen and move fast in this industry. But I think what DC is doing is they're positioning themselves to say, listen, we're here to make money. And at the end of the day, there was I'll leave on this point. I was watching the forum on people complaining that the DC forum was closed and they had no one to call to get information from. Listen, I talk to DC every single day on projects, shortages, damages. We don't get a lot of those. Buying new product, whatever it is. If they really want to talk to DC, it's a simple email. They send it to, they get a response, they're signed a rep. I think you got to go to that second stage of partnerships with DC.
JJ.
Well, I'm kind of reminded of this digital push. Reminds me of when soccer was going to overtake America as the number one sport in the early '90s. Does anyone remember that?
I remember the thought of that.
Yeah, I do too.
LA Galaxy, baby.
Yeah. So I guess, at the end of the day, what I often tell people is comic people are comic people. And while there will be a new generation of comic people coming in, comic people like to go to their shops on a Tuesday or Wednesday. They like to purchase their comics. They like to read them. They like to have them. You don't really hear that explosion of the price going up or any of those things. You hear more people complain that they don't have their comic out there. I personally think it's a bad idea to go digital. I'm not a believer in that. I'm a believer in the local comic shop. I believe it's a community. I believe it's a small business. I believe it's all those things. I think there are certain books that you can go digital with. I think that it's pretty obvious that what they want to do is go digital, then take that book and put it into a trade paperback form so that they can put it out at Walmart, Amazon, or your local comic shop if they now want to get it there, knowing the local comic shop can't offer it at a 25% discount like other shops can, your big chains, So I think there's going to be a lot of resistance against that. I obviously work with creators, so I think the other aspect of that too is contracts. If you are an exclusive person with, say, DC, more than likely you're getting a residual for the work that you put out, and that's for your print work. You're also getting a residual for your digital work, but I'm not sure that they're equal, if that makes sense. So I think that the digital may be a little less. So it would behoove you to have, obviously, print work. I guess at the end of the day, I often say that, printed comics are still going to be around. I'm obviously a DC fan. I'm a comic fan. But at the end of the day, look, if DC decides they want to go completely digital, I'll be the first to tell you I'm out. I'll spend my money on Scout Comics. I'll spend my money on whatever, and I don't have an issue with that. That is personally where I'll be, and I can live with it. I'm not going to read a comic on my phone. I'm not going to watch it on my TV. I'm going to continue doing business the way that I perceive business to be, because that's how I run my business. I sell comics for a living. I don't sell digital comics for a living. I think, I haven't been on for a couple of weeks, but hearing about the DC bloodbath, all the things that have gone on, all the high position power players that have moved on, many of whom were friends. I'm not a big fan of it. And obviously listening to Jonathan talk about, what the support is for Batman Day. I mean, in this day and age right now, we need customer service more than we need anything, right? If you're a comic shop right now and you're trying to thrive, your customer service needs to be on point. Jesse, when you're on the Comic Book Shopping Network, your customer service needs to be on point.
Yep.
So I'm not really understanding. Let's distance ourselves from the comic shops even further. Let's pull away. Let's pull away. Let's pull away. I don't quite get that, because I know that both of you running your shops, you're not pulling away from your customers. You're happy to see them. You want them to keep coming in. You want them to keep buying products. You want to build relationships with them. So I just flat out think that this 2-year plan it may be what their plan is. But so far, some of the contracts I've heard about with some of these guys that are writing books, and they're big time paychecks, like professional athlete paychecks. If that's where you're putting your money, maybe it should have been spread out a little bit more amongst other people, because one of the major things that people didn't understand about that entire DC bloodbath was a little blurb at the bottom that said they're also going to be looking into the contracts of so-and-so, 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 and so-and-so as creators. You're not looking into those contracts if they're low money contracts. You're looking into those contracts if they're high dollars.
Yeah.
And are they getting the money back out of what they're paying someone to?
And I think to follow on with what JJ is saying and what Jesse said is that, if they're looking into contracts, and then, digital is obviously cheaper when you cut out, distribution area. It's basically, I just need a couple of file servers to,
right,
to serve up files. Then, yeah, people would be looking at this as, well, what's the best way to improve my bottom line? Let's reduce my expenses. So I don't have to print, I don't have to distribute, I don't have to, do any of those things. We just made money this year and we didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And that to me, that seems like a really short, 3-quarter solution maybe, but not a long-term 5-year, 10-year, sort of entertainment sort of plan.
Yeah. And the one thing that coming from big box retail is I've never seen a company who comes back and says, okay, we're going to give you a credit for everything you didn't sell. And not only we then do that, we're then sending you a code, a barcode for UPS. So we're US or UPS. We're then pay for you to ship all those books back to us. I find that simply crazy because there has to be an end game for that. They're not recycling this paper. They're using this for other means. So I think there's a lot of things going on that they're looking at in the big box world, where us as comic book store owners may not see that picture. And so that would be a challenge because, listen, they're not going to put those $10 books in the $5 packs at Walmart. That doesn't make sense. They just paid me $5 to send it back to them. So I think there's a lot of things going on that maybe you got divisions working in one area that actually don't talk to the other division. And that could be happening as well. Listen, at the end of the day, we are a very fluid DC selling store. We would like to do more business, not less business. So I think that's kind of what I'm looking at going forward is if it improves my business and we're able to get more product and sell more product, then that's why I'm for. I'm not in for getting less business, making less money.
Ultimately, though, I don't think DC cares one way or the other.
Sure. But the best way for a retailer to do that is hit them in their pocket, not order, as much. So it's always the hard question, right? Because we've talked about this. I've had my famous signs up that said, listen, if you don't carry DC Comics, you're telling your customer you don't want to sell them what they want. But on the flip end, you also, as a retailer, have to get that product. And I think at the end of the day, you have to have the confidence of selling product for publishers. You have to have good partners. I talked to both Ross Ritchie and Philip this morning. We didn't even talk about their announcement. That's the type of partnerships that you need to have with your publishers.
So Patrick McMullen says, I expect to see a digital expansion and decline in printed books, but maybe more second print, third print, so on, depending on supply and demand. So, I mean, does anybody see that as a possible scenario, or do you maybe see do you see them on the fence, or do you see them just committing one way or the other?
I see DC, like I said, the way I laid it out, I see them going. As the industry, no. I think the increase in second and third prints that you're seeing now is just everybody trying to scramble after, all comics went on hiatus for two and a half months, and now they're coming back. And, customers and retailers are in various states of recovery. So, when, a new book comes out, maybe I ordered enough, maybe I didn't, maybe my customer was ready for it, maybe they weren't, and then they sell out. And, so now there's a demand. And so they go for a second print, for a third print. And, I've always thought that when it came to Marvel, they don't tell you what those run numbers were, and so when you see the book goes to fifth print, that becomes an advertising point for somebody to say, look, it went to a fifth print. And you're like, well, was the second print 1,000 books? And the third print 500? And the fourth print? I mean, it's like, you don't know what those print runs were. The closest we get are things like Comic-Con and ICV2 numbers. And that rarely breaks it down by print run. Instead, and really what you're getting there is numbers of books that were sold to shops, not numbers of books that were sold. So, like, for example, the Mega Man book. The Mega Man book went to second print. It was on this week's FOC. It came out this week, and I ordered enough because, it was a Mega Man book.
Right.
I still have copies. Nobody's interested in it, and yet they're doing a second print. Why? I don't know. And I don't want to speak ill of Boom. I enjoy Boom as a publisher and, and the product that they put out. But you don't have a lot of visibility into those numbers as to why they're doing it. But I don't think the correlation is necessarily that, well, we're going to satisfy that demand for digital. And the digital numbers have been flat for years, and maybe the digital numbers have been flat for years because a player like DC hasn't decided to go all in. But even if DC does go all in, let's see if I can get this right on the camera. This guy, to me, is a typical customer that I talked to. Greg, Will, I asked him, what happens when DC goes digital? He's like, well, I guess I wait for trade, or I don't read DC comics anymore. I read my own comics.
Right.
But he's another guy. There's another guy in the target demographic that is calls himself a DC fan, and the concept of reading it on phone, reading it on TV, tablet, computer, like I want to read it in my hands. I want to bag and board it. I want to do all the things. I want to get art journal covers for it.
Well, I think the situation that we have is the fault of this industry. And listen, I'm just going to say it as it is. We're one of the few industry that uses wholesale numbers as the number. We all know, most of us know, that Diamond really wanted to know real sell numbers. Comic Suite, there's a lot of ways to do it where you can get real sell numbers with participating stores, and then do your second print a month later based on sales. Here's a prime example. The most reprinted comic book of all time is Johnny Homicidal Maniac. It's on the 60th print. And I tell you what, if they get a big rush of product, someone will make the 64th print. But we should only be doing second prints and third prints because the retailers are best for it, and not worry about wholesale number sales. Because I can tell you right now, I can still go into my back room and get a whole bunch of Force number 1 poly bag sale. And so those didn't sell retail; they sold wholesale. So I think second prints, third prints, I think it, and it always comes down to this, and JJ knows what I'm going to say, is who's doing that second print? Do you have Art Germ doing a second print cover? That's a different story there. But just to artificially do a second print that is black and white, or the title instead of being in red, it's yellow. I don't think that's the way we should be doing it. I think we should be listening to the retailers. And when the retailers say, listen, we're sold out for a certain percentage, that's when the second print is moved.
All right. We're kind of we decided to cut this episode down to half an hour to see how we were able to maintain.
Keep going.
Well, we do have to get to one other topic real quick. We have to.
Jeez, half an hour.
Now, we've only been on 23 minutes.
Was it Saturday night? Yeah.
Yes.
Saturday night, I was, I think it was around 9 when I was playing on my phone and looking, and it popped up, and I thought it was a hoax at first. I did. I thought someone was just screwing with me, and then I keep looking, and everybody's posting. Everybody. I'm like, it's Chadwick Boseman had died. From colon cancer. That they've been fighting that shit for 4 years. Told nobody. Didn't ask for sympathy. Didn't ask for anything. Going to the Make-A-Wish stuff, seeing the kids with cancer, not letting them know that he's hurting as bad or worse than they are. Making sure that they have one more good day before they have another bad one. That dude was he was an amazing human being. I'm not even talking about what he did as far as the Marvel Comics as T'Challa and everything. Just him as a person to do that kind of stuff it's astounding. The world is lesser for losing that guy.
There are strong people in this world that believe that asking for more than what you can give is more important to them. I truly believe I spend a good portion of my day. This isn't about me, obviously. Talking to stores across the nation I will never meet for 2 hours a day. I talk to at least 4 stores a day. You have to get back to your community. And I think when you get back to your community, you shouldn't expect anything back. And I think seeing his full story, his wraparound story, I hope a lot of people realize that's a good way to live your life, regardless of the cancer and all that. Give other people hope. And I think if you give other people hope, that will allow your name to move on in a good way. And I think that's a very good, he will be a very good example of how humans should treat each other.
Yeah, I I'll agree. I mean, a few little facts about him. Michael B. Jordan played the character, I believe, opposite of him in the Black Panther. Found out they were both on a soap together, and Michael B. Jordan replaced him, which is an interesting side note. He's played a lot of iconic characters besides Black Panther, Jackie Robinson being one of them. I got to meet him once at San Diego through one of those quick signings, I know my friend Tori Quella had a signing coming up along with Celebrity Authentics, and that kept getting postponed for Chadwick. So there were a lot of people that were excited about that. He's iconic. I mean, he was iconic already as the Black Panther. I mean, he played a perfect Black Panther, and I think he'll be remembered just for being genuinely a great person. And it's fun to hear some of the stories, because I like to think that when someone passes, it's nice to hear some of the cool stories. And one of them was Denzel Washington paid for his acting when he went to school. And so he invited him to the premiere, and Denzel, jokingly said he was there, thought he was getting some money or something out of this deal. And the other one was his mom was, Angelica Houston, or I forget who his mom was in the Black Panther. But she was getting awarded like an honorary doctorate at the college, and he was one of the people that was chaperoning her around. He was still in college at the time, and he never told her the story until after the movie was filmed. And I think that maybe says a lot about the guy right there, and the fact that he was in the hospitals and he was doing all of this stuff. And, a lot of people were attacking him for his weight loss and for his looks at the time and things like that. And, clearly just stood strong. And, I think it's real. I've never seen the amount of people reach out to me at one moment, 1 minute, and let me know that Chadwick Boseman had passed away.
Yeah, we were actually in the middle of a live show when it happened, and it was just nonstop. We actually had to go and just go with that. So
And a lot of people are let's be honest, a lot of people are already trying to speculate on things with the future of the Marvel universe, and I've seen a lot of people just flat out come out and say, stop. Yep. This is not the time to start talking about this. We just lost someone that, when we look back at his life story and the things that he's done, and we remember him as King T'Challa, and we remember him as the Black Panther, and he'll always be remembered for that. And I think that legacy will live a very, very long time. And so, it's tragic news. We've lost a lot of people this year, and a lot of people recently in the sports world too. 2020 just keeps kicking us in the nuts, I guess. I don't know what else to say.
This is one of those things I think everybody would like to lay at 2020, but as Cory pointed out in the beginning of this, he was sick basically the entire time we saw him on his rise up, through Marshall, through 42, through all of his Black Panther appearances. He already had stage 3. And to that, I think in the immortal words that were once said, that probably best said here, is fuck cancer. And it is sad. And to lay him on the pyre that is 2020 seems wrong and disingenuous. And and I spent a lot of Saturday morning looking at videos that he had done, including his AFI speech to honor Denzel Washington. And I think that it's definitely something that's worth watching, because the reason that I think that he was so good as Black Panther and in those other roles is because he embodied a certain amount of grace. I mean, it's a part of his life. So I would definitely recommend people take that out. And as a follow up to what JJ was saying, Michael B. Jordan followed Boseman on a soap opera, but the reason Boseman left that soap opera is because he questioned the integrity of the character that he was playing, that they were having him play a stereotypical black kid who, well, where is his parents? Why is he this way? There was basically they were having him play him as the victim that everybody thinks of. And he's like, that's not authentic. That's not who I'm going to do. So he left that role. He questioned that role based on integrity and was fired from that role for that, and was told that it may be a while before you work in this industry again. And then at 37, you see him. I said this on the podcast this week with my buddy that everybody talks about he was on the rise, and again, when you look back at some of these things that he did, when you see Denzel Washington basically reaching back to the next generation, and we get a Chadwick Boseman out of him. Look at his Howard University graduation speech. It's another inspiring moment. It was grace. And he barely cleared the entry. This is the reverse of the superhero landing. This is the superhero getting ready to take off, where he squats down a little bit and you see the little effects that they put on, and you can tell he is going to take off like a rocket. And yeah, this is where we were looking at with his career. And not only was he just going to take off, he was going to inspire people. A lot of people read comics because they're looking for them in those comics. And a lot of people look at comic book movies for the same reason. They're looking for them. And it's not the way that I necessarily experience these things, but the number of people, the affection that they had to look on the screen and see themselves in a way that they never thought was possible. You hear from a lot of comic creators of color that talk about, being able to identify with Spider-Man or Iron Man or something because you don't know who's under the mask. But with Black Panther, they saw themselves. They saw themselves represented, and not as the stereotypical role that he got himself fired from, but as a proud, intelligent, and graceful person. He wasn't the hero like Tony, who's trying to figure it all out. He's not like the super soldier where he's got all the power to do everything. He was surrounded by people that were there to help him, and he delegated to them. But ultimately, the story that you see with him is he has to stand up and be a king, be better than his father was, be better for the next generation, be an inspiration to the world. And he did that on and off the screen. And it is tragically heartbreaking to know that he's not there anymore to entertain and inspire us. But I think now is the best time to be talking about the next MCU movie, because in that incredible cast that he left behind and the incredible stories that we have, available for us to tell from, this is a great time to show that that T'Challa has died, but the Black Panther goes on, and that the history and values that when you see all the interviews he did for that he was trying to bring into the role, this is a perfect opportunity, and I have faith. I have hope that they can do that in a way that, for those that know me well, know that I generally don't have faith and hope in just about anything good. And I really think that they could do well with this. I think they have to do well with this.
All right, guys, you got something to say? You sure? Okay. I mean, we're at our cap now. So I guess we can run around and get the closing statements. JJ, we'll start with you, sir.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for being here, Jonathan. I think you did an excellent job of just putting all your emotion and all your thoughts into that. That was wonderful. Thank you very much. It was. Also side note is Black Panther was the first superhero movie, I believe, to be nominated for Best Picture of the Year, which is extraordinary in and of itself. But yeah, I think man, I'm going to go back and watch what Jonathan had to say again. I truly mean that, because I think he encompassed everything that we should be feeling and everything that we do feel. And yeah, I think his legend's going to live forever. I really do. Not the Black Panther, but I mean him as an actor, because it almost to me appears like he was a superhero the entire time. And then he just fit into roles that were super heroish, I guess, if you'd say, because of the legends that he took on. So yeah, Jonathan, great job. That was awesome.
Thanks.
Jesse, got any closing statements?
Closing thing for me, I'm going to go off topic here. There was a big industry shift today. Me being in third market, I had been waiting for someone to do this. So Boom has announced their new Kickstarter. This is driven by Keanu Reeves himself. He's doing all the promos for this. This won't affect retailers. They still get their copies. They still get their trade. This Kickstarter is involving some exclusives that they teamed up with Keanu Reeves on. I think at the end of the day, when this Kickstarter ends, you will see a shift in how publishers do specialty Kickstarters in the future. Keep in mind that this will give them a bigger fan base to sell to that might not actually be comic book fans, but Keanu Reeves fans. And on the flip end, it will get more people interested in comic books. And so I see this as a great opportunity for Boom, who has been on this extreme rise, to get next to the level and return with it right back to the customers, right back to the retailers.
Jonathan?
For any of we talked a little bit offline about, retailers that Jesse is talking to are concerned. And, it's certainly a time when I think everybody can use just an ear to talk to. If you go to goalter.com, you can find my contact information there for me. So if there's any retailers that need somebody to talk to, I'll also throw my hat in the ring. I'm very discoverable on Google, so work that way through it. And for non-retailers that might be listening, what we call customers and fans, read comics. It's one of the things now that is still here and is not being taken from you. The stories are still here, and stories are so important to us, whether they're true or not. Stories are important. They're entertaining. They're escape. They sometimes can have a lesson or not, but they can give you a moment's respite from the things that are going on. And as we ended on, way to go! You should have started with Bozeman, Damon. I got to have a cry after this. As tragic that is, take solace in the way you feel about this, is because he told great stories that we believe in. Not saying that we believe in Black Panther, but we believe in nobility and grace, and that is possible. And when we talk about Chadwick Boseman versus T'Challa, it's possible. So those stories, you can be experiencing those stories, and it doesn't have to be DC, whether or not they're going all digital or not. It can be anybody. Right. So your comic book retailer gets new books every week. Great place to get new stories. So reach out to them.
Buy Nightwing 76. You cover
and that.
Wakanda forever. All right, guys.
See you next week.
Thanks. See you next week.